One time for the one time. It's the family bloodline.
There we go. What's good people? We are back once again. Another episode of the Family Bloodline Podcast coming at you real quick right now. We are going to continue our talk about Trump's cabinet picks, especially after this dude's hitting me up in text message saying that he's coming. Especially after what happened directly after the next day, if not the same night, but directly after we were talking about it the last time. For those of you all who are not up to speed on what's happened or what's taken place so far, Matt Gaetz is out. He is out. He is no longer in the runnings for the Attorney General spot. And not just him, but there were several other people that got lifted and shifted and moved around as far as the cabinet is concerned that will no longer be there, if memory serves me right. I see you ready. Let's get you in. So, yeah, it's been a quick transition. There was a lot, again, that happened like directly after our last live talking about Trump's cabinet. And the biggest thing, the biggest surprise or shocker was the Matt Gaetz part of it. So what do y'all, now we jumping right into it tonight. We're jumping right into it tonight. So what do y'all think? What do y'all say? Richard, what you think?
Yeah. They said that he was the most controversial pick.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody had to go, he would go first. Matt Gaetz. Yeah. That's why when I came on late last week, I said, the picks that we have, we don't know who's going to make it. He's going to drop out. And so he withdrew allegedly from pressure. They said he wasn't well liked by those in the House. Some of this may be the payback for him helping get out former Speaker of the House, McCarthy.
Yeah, I think so.
Possibly. Some of it may be because of allegedly an underage 17-year-old, allegedly. But, we don't want to make a rush to judgment because, he may, we don't know if he met her at a party or so they have parties, we have freak offs. I'm done. I'll stop there. So.
Oh my goodness, Deuce, what you got? What do you think?
To go off of what Rich was saying, man, they already certified the fact that the guy paid 10 G's to have sexual relations. Let me do my Clinton sexual relations with this woman. 10,000. That was a hell of a night, right? And then I think there was another case that was coming out, right? So look at the trail of things, man. Trump said, "You're my guy, Attorney General." Gaetz said, "Thank you, Daddy. I'm giving up my seat. I'm out of Congress, so they can't investigate me anymore."
Yeah,
boom, that was done. Then there was this fight about releasing a report. And he was like, "Oh snap, y'all might release it. I ain't think about that. Hey, Daddy, I'm out. I want this stuff to come out." And it was crazy how there was even a fight over whether or not it should be released. But I think the New York Times got a lot of it, right? A lot of it's already been leaked out. That's how we found out about the second interaction. To me, this is another example of Trump picking people who hate if you hate an agency, he's going to pick you to preside over the agency, right?
Which is wild.
It is wild. But
No.
if I want to look at it, I don't know what the silver lining is. But if I'm going to reach really far for this, I think on both sides of the house, we all wanted some type of governmental overhaul. I think both sides viewed the government as being bloated and wanted more efficiency and effectiveness in the government, right?
Okay.
The Dems, for whatever reason, did not do it. The Republicans, for whatever reason, didn't do it. Trump's coming in here like, I got the answer. I'm appointing the people that hate the organizations to lead said organizations, man. I don't think that's a good solution, but to Rich's point, man, and Glass, I think you said it too, man. We don't know who's going to make it through. These are just the early picks, right? Gates was definitely the most head-scratching appointment, even worse than JFK Jr., right? Or RFK Jr.
Okay, yeah.
He took the spotlight from him, so.
Which is, again, another wild thing, because why would anybody put RFK over anything dealing with any other medical, anything dealing with any medical institution whatsoever?
Yeah.
I know why.
Go ahead.
I know why.
Why is that?
Listen to this. On RFK Jr., he was running for the White House.
Yeah.
The Democrats said, know your place. He said, I don't know my place other than to follow my convictions in this free country that my daddy and my uncle died for at the hands of most likely, allegedly, the U.S. government. So he has these strong opinions. And he's not alone. And so when he reached out, or when President-elect Trump reached out to him and they started working together campaigning, they said the minute Donald Trump wins the White House, he'll wash his hands of RFK Jr. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Now, the Matt Gaetz situation, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm not looking for yes people. I'm looking for loyalists. And Matt Gaetz had Donald Trump's back from the very beginning, period.
Yeah.
So yes, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm going to pick people who's going to support me through thick and thin to the very end. Oh, you got some sexual allegations? Oh, come right to my party. I'm in the same boat as you. So peas of the pod, we can work together. I wish Donald Trump would call me.
But what does that say about you then?
It says that I'm a man. And last time I checked, 90% of men across America, we don't have no perfect life when it comes to women. And I'm not talking about underage women. I'm talking about the word lust. So if they're going to hold Matt Gaetz to the standard of obeying the laws, then I want all those men from all the years that served in the U.S. Congress to be held to the same standard. So when Heidi Fleiss had that little book of all those names, and they said, you're going to go to prison for a while, but you're not going to release the names of that book because we won't have nobody in Congress serving who are males. So
Okay.
with that
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So with that being said, they've accused Donald Trump of the E. Jean Carroll. He says he's innocent. People say you were a liar. He says all those court trials was a witch hunt, and you're trying to witch hunt Matt Gaetz. That's what he's saying in his mind. So that's why he picked Matt Gaetz. And if I was Donald Trump, I wouldn't have backed off. I would have said, no, Matt, you're going to run for this. You're going to run for this. And I'm going to find out how much influence do I have with these senators who got reelected off of my platform. Because I am the Republican Party. I am Donald Trump.
Rich, I'm going to push back on that. If I had to put myself in the orange man's shoes, right? If I put myself in the orange man's shoes, bro, with the suntan lotion and everything dripping from my forehead,
Oh my God.
I don't know if I want to spend my favors, right? We all have X amount of favors, right? I don't think it's infinite, even for Trump. And I don't think he's going to want to start writing those checks on little old Gates. I don't think Gates is worth it to Donald Trump's agenda. There are other loyalists, other yes men that he could find that he could tap to run that department that have less baggage than him. So yeah, I'm gonna push back on that. I don't think he wants this to be his fight. Is he gonna take it up? Sure. But for key positions and key people, I don't think Gates was it. Gates came in with too much baggage, man.
Well, here's my thing. Donald Trump said that all these trials is a witch hunt. The DOJ has been weaponized against me.
Sure.
And I'm the former president. And I didn't do anything wrong. And I won that 2020 election. I don't care what you say. I won that election. This is Donald Trump talking.
Yeah.
With that being said, I'm going to put somebody in charge of DOJ, Department of Justice, who I know has my back.
But when you want somebody capable of
Gates, without a shadow of a doubt, he'll never.
But if you're Donald, you will want. I get what you're saying. All right, let's pretend like we Donald. Pretend like I got a two. Pretend like this right here is a toupee, right? So, can I make it go to the side? I can't.
I don't think
it's too straight.
Yeah.
But when you want somebody capable, and to that point, I don't think Gates is capable as AG because, like you said, he's too disliked within Congress, within the government. What can he get done?
Yeah, and it's not just within the government; it's within his own party.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
That does matter.
No, because the most important person in Donald Trump's administration, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, is Stephen Miller. So all you have to do is take the phone call when Steve calls you and says, "Hey, this is what we're doing. I spoke to to the president's lead attorney, and this is what we're doing. And so here I am. I'm Matt Gaetz. Okay, this is what we want to do. Okay, no problem. I'm on it." And that's how that works. So everything will be run from the White House, from Donald Trump's personal attorney and Stephen Miller. And all these people he's putting in charge, all they got to do is pick up the phone. When they call you, what's the game plan? Okay.
Nah, bro. I feel you on his attorney. But I think you still need to have people that like you, man. You still need to have people. You need favors. You need favors in Congress, right? Look what happened to Gates, bro. They iced him out after he got the old Speaker of the House out, who was trying to make bipartisan deals. After that, Gates was irrelevant within his own party. He was iced out.
No, he was not. And I'm gonna tell you why.
What?
This is how. No. Let me tell you what.
They didn't even want to vote for him now.
Hold on. Let me give you the pushback on this.
Okay.
If Donald Trump didn't want Kevin McCarthy removed, he'd still be sitting there.
Oh,
Donald Trump.
No, he wanted Kevin McCarthy removed.
Yeah,
I agree. He wanted him removed.
Matt Gaetz and Margie Taylor Greene and the rest of that little crew of 8, they'll come for you.
Yeah.
Now remember, Margie Taylor Greene got into it with somebody else, and Donald called her and said, "Hey, could you cut some slack on her?" And she backed. Sure. I can't remember that particular situation. Margie Taylor Greene had got into it with somebody, and Donald Trump called her, and she backed off. So Matt Gaetz had Donald Trump's back. And remember, when Donald Trump got ran out of New York, where did he run to? Florida. Where's Matt Gaetz from? Florida. And so when he couldn't get Matt Gaetz, who did he go to? Well, he went to Miss Blonde. She's from Florida.
And she's gonna get affirmed because she has there's nothing holding her back. She's gonna go through. She's gonna coast. I'm just saying to push back the original point, man. Gates coming through there is like a porcupine, bro, like a cactus, bro. He's too sticky, too many thorns, man. He upset too many people within his party. Oh, girl, he got now. She can work things through on his behalf. It's funny we're talking about Marjorie because she said, and I can't remember the exact phrase, but it's not up to them to cast any type of judgment on his picks. She said the American people spoke. They voted for Donald on his agenda. Congress's job is just to say okay to whatever Donald wants to do.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that what you sent to me. That's
Listen,
insane.
listen to this. She is not wrong, because when you're the former president and you claim you got cheated and you caused that mass hysteria on January 6th, and you still beat all those charges because that special prosecutor was appointed illegally, and now he's throwing all that stuff out. So all this stuff that Donald Trump's been talking for all these years, and then the people turned around and said, we're going to roll with you. Yes, he's going to stick his chest out. And yes, he should get every person he wants. He should get put into those positions. If I'm controlling the House and the Senate, I'm getting what I want 99 out of 100 times. That's the mindset. But hold on. This is the mindset that I'm talking about. That's not a politician mindset. That's a mindset of a businessman. And he's coming to run the government as a business. I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. This is what
go ahead, Glass. What you got?
You're correct. He is trying to run this like one of his businesses. Remember that he bankrupted 6 of them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we can't forget about that. He's not the great businessman that he's tried to highlight himself as. He didn't even write his own book. But to his picks, now I understand exactly why you're saying what you're saying, Richard, especially if you are looking at this from the eagle's nest of Trump, and you were saying, well, I don't care about what you did. I just need my loyalists. I totally get that, and I agree. The issue that I think he'd run into with Gates is not only has Gates soured other Republicans, but he's made way too many enemies for Trump to be able to fend off. And so whatever he tried to do as attorney general, it would turn upside down, because now they are playing politics and they want to run him out of there.
And I would say the same argument you made to get Matt Gaetz is the same argument that the Democratic Party was making against Donald Trump re-electing him. And the American people said, we don't care about your argument. We still putting them back in anyway. Well, we don't care about the racism.
That's another conversation we can have about what the American people think and what they understand. But I want to go back to something. You glossed over Jack Smith, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You said Jack Smith's illegally appointed, all this stuff. The special prosecutor was leading the charge on Donald Trump's all the charges, right? He had to drop it once Trump was elected president because the Supreme Court granted Trump immunity. There's no case anymore.
Now, here's the funny thing about that. That's a very intelligent, very sophisticated answer. And you're right. Legally, you are right. But the spirit of hustle tells me, if your case was really that solid to begin with, hold on a second. Let's flip this for a second. What if it was Barack Obama? Okay, brother, we can't indict you now because you just got reelected. But we're gonna put these charges on hold. And the minute you walk your ass out of that White House, we coming for you. So if those charges were that strong, they were based in what was right versus what is wrong, they'd say, you know what? We're going to put these charges on hold. And when you come out of there, and you will come out at the end of your 4-year term, we're going to continue where we started. Because we believe that no man is higher than the laws of this great country. Now, that's what
there are no more rules. There are no more rules. They've shown that in order to maintain power, people can and will operate outside of the law. And not just that, but they will allow and enable the persons that they need to work and operate outside of the law. They've been showing us that, right? Even when it comes to the American people, I understand how the American people voted was good. However, what's being shown at this point is people didn't even understand the basic concept of a tariff. And now they're starting to figure it out and say, wait a minute, what have I done? You mean the imports that we got from Canada and Mexico, you're going to place a tariff on that? So now cement, wood, lumber, all that other stuff, avocados, tomatoes, as well as the other 70% of agriculture that we get from Mexico, you're going to tariff that? But where are we going to get that from? How is this going to happen now?
And we've had this conversation before. the tariffs and all that is based off economics, and economics is not a true science. So just because you do something 1 minute does not always mean that the economy is going to react the way it's reacted in the past. Not always when it comes to economics.
But Rich, I do want to mention one thing, because and I got to research it, but I remember, I think Jack Smith's charges, he dismissed it, right, without prejudice, which means they can go back at him.
They can.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't dismissed with prejudice. I want to say it was dismissed without prejudice, meaning they can retry him at a later date.
So let me go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
No. Let's all look that one up, because that's important. Because I'm looking at here, it says here, when a case is dismissed with prejudice, it's dismissed permanently. A case that's dismissed without prejudice is only dismissed temporarily. What I read, I believe, was that the case was being dismissed, period. So let's look that up real quick, because that's really important.
Let's see. Trump's case dismissed.
Jack Smith drops charges. Let's see how they did this.
Trump's
agrees to dismiss Donald Trump's 2020 election stuff. Okay, now I'm going through NBC. I don't trust NBC, but anyway, I'm gonna go through them as my first side. Filed motion to drop all federal charges against President-elect Donald Trump regarding his mishandling of classified documents and his effort to overturn the 2020 election with the January 6th. Now, you said
it's dismissed without prejudice is a key thing, meaning
that's what I'm looking for, and it's not telling me. Hold on, I'll try to search this document to see if I can see prejudice in here.
The BBC says without prejudice.
That's what the BBC
CBS
is saying.
Says without prejudice. CNN. There's a couple of websites that say without prejudice, meaning that the government can reopen. I mean, if there's a DOJ after this, right, they can reopen the case if they still exist after this term.
So I'm looking. Hold on. Because that's a big deal. Okay, so CNN. Well, hold on. CNN is liberal. So hold on. I'm at CNN right now.
I'm looking at CBS.
Shulton formerly.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. Formally dismissed the case without prejudice Monday afternoon. Okay.
That's what I was reading also from CBS. Shulton said in a brief opinion that dismissing the case without prejudice is appropriate in part because it is consistent with the government's understanding that the immunity afforded to a sitting president is temporary, expiring when they leave office. So it is dismissed without prejudice. So it's possible that they will pick it back up when he leaves office. Hey, Juan.
And
so
you know what I would say to that? If I'm Donald Trump, I'll get all this thrown out. Period.
Yeah, before he leaves office.
No. While I'm in office, I'll get all this thrown out. I'll be in charge of DOJ. That person who I guess will be Pam Bondi will do everything to make sure that this is totally thrown out. If it has to go up to the United States Supreme Court, they'll throw it out. Fair enough. So in a sense, they're trying to say if you're the president, you're above everyone else. But once you leave the presidency, these charges that we put against you, you're not above the law once you're not the president anymore. And we're going to take these charges and finish them out. But here's the thing. You ain't going to finish no charges. And this would put pressure on the next president. And this is where the Republican Party can't sit and take it easy. They got to make sure they win the next election. And by that time, if they win the next election and they got 4 more years, we don't know if President Trump's going to live 4 years after he leaves office in 28?
Well, the way he's trying to, from his words, he said, you'll never have to vote again. So we'll see. I don't know. It depends on what he ends up doing.
That's a bluff. He's bluffing.
I'm just saying what he said to a bunch of at a convention.
No,
so,
because we know that we're a nation of laws.
Are we? There are no more rules or laws. He's proved it.
That's not true.
He's proved it.
No, the voters said that they believed in him and that he said he was innocent of all these charges. And the voters across the nation said unanimously, or in a majority vote and by electoral college, we believe in Donald Trump more than we believe in what you're saying, all these things he did wrong.
Right. And so with that being said, no, there aren't, because the precedents that they've set is if people, just because people believe in you and people vote for you, that means that the rules don't apply. And you can use that if a person's smart enough, depending on what they're being hit and looked at, right? He's at this point, he's setting Supreme Court precedents. He's setting court precedents, and they can use this because there are no more rules.
That's not true. You're taking something and you're an exaggeration of it. We're still a nation, because if that was the case, they would have dismissed this case with prejudice, and they didn't do that because we're still a nation of law and order. So
you think but Rich, you got to think about the timeline, bro. Everything that happened was before the Supreme Court agreed to the fact that the president and presidential acts fall under immunity, right? So it's a timeline. All that stuff happened before the court dropped that gavel. And then everything that Trump did when he wasn't president, which is still now, he can be prosecuted for. But once he's inaugurated, it's over, man. This dude's immune. He's like Captain America.
No, it's already over, because you said once he's inaugurated, he's already dropping the charges now. He could have said, well, let's hurry up and try to get this done before he gets in. Nope, because he's the incoming president. He's already immune right now.
He's not immune right now.
Yes, he is. Because he wouldn't put those charges in to have him drop. He is immune right now. Yes, he is.
He is. According to Jack Smith, he said the Constitution deems it necessary that when the person is president-elect, essentially, that that these cases do need to be dropped during this time period until he's out of actual office, right? And so that's why they began to drop the charges at this point, because they know that they can't do anything. With the next few months, there's nothing that's going to happen. And it's still something that they still have an uphill battle to climb. Listen, Washington full of bureaucrats, and they'll hold it up.
Maya just said it. Once he's in office, all of this is going away. All of it. Because whoever that attorney general is, if it's going to be Pam Bondi, this is over. Yeah. When he won the election, game over. If he had lost the election,
it would have been some serious deals that came out of that. But and let's not get caught at this point, because I think we all have, because this is something that I'd love for us to come back and talk about, because there's such a vast array of ways that this can go, even with the understanding that the case was dismissed with prejudice, right? So what does that look like? Without
prejudice.
Sorry about that. Without prejudice, right? Is this going to be a looming thing, right? First off, we know that he's going to go again. He's going to begin to attack anybody that began to oppose him once he gets in office. He's going to have his hands full for the first 6 months doing that, trying to lock people up. He's going to act. So what he does is he accuses everybody of the things that he actually does. He's going to send the Department of Justice at people. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So Will Trump free? He's going to free himself, and he freed himself, no doubt about it. But what I don't want to shift focus on is the cast that he's putting into place, with or without Senate confirmation. He's got a third of his cabinet that's being filled by people who are directly tied to Project 2025. For instance, Russ Vought, Brendan Carr, Tom Homan, John Ratcliffe, and Pete Hoekstra.
Glass, hey, don't come on here spitting these lies about old BT, bro, BJT, because he's not 2025 is not about Trump. All right, don't spit these lies. Just because he's appointing people himself that are associated with it, that doesn't mean he's part of the foundation.
Because Trump told people, and I don't understand why folks aren't believing him. to be who he is. But he told people that I have nothing to do with Project 2025. I don't know what it is. It's nothing that I know of. I've not read it. Blah 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 blah. And then he turns around and puts the co-authors of this insidious document in charge of and puts them in prominent positions to carry that thing out. Although they're loyalists.
In the dubious allegation you're throwing. In dubious allegation. This is merely coincidence. Okay? That he's put the people who authored the document as cabinet members. Merely a coincidence.
Hold on, wait a minute. If we want to use the exact words, I think the one individual co-authored 2025.
One individual co-authored, absolutely. And
what his name was. Gosh. I think he's being put in charge of the. Oh gosh, which person? I forgot his name.
Russ Vought is being put in charge. Yeah, OMB director, and he's listed among the authors of Project 2025, and he's going to be policy director on the committee that. Well, he was also on the policy of committee that crafted the official Republican Party platform. And this is what I'm reading off of Axios right now. I'm on Axios website. And in Project 2025, he outlines ways to centralize executive power and reel in the federal bureaucracy, which I don't agree with directly, which he says all too often is carrying out its own policy plans and preferences, or worse yet, the policy plans and preferences of radical, supposedly woke faction of the country. I have yet to hear anybody define off on that side of the aisle what woke means.
You know what? Somebody did define that. I think that was a person on CNN. Gosh. He's on CNN. He's a Republican strategist, contributor. He defined what woke was.
You're talking about Exef?
No. He's a CNN contributor. He's a Republican strategist. Peter. Oh gosh. I want to say Peter Jenkins. Oh gosh, CNN contributor.
So he gave them a definition.
Scott Jennings. He defined what woke was. You know what? I don't want to say that for sure. I heard on TV somebody give a great definition of what woke was. It may have been on Bill Maher. I can't remember what show I watched it on. But basically they were saying, go ahead.
I was just saying more than likely it was on Bill Maher because he has both sides present their information. And because I've watched Fox and I've watched people struggle, Republicans struggle through that question of what does woke mean. And none of them had a direct, clear definition of it, which is great to me because they don't need one.
Well, they struggle through that like they're trying to define what a woman is. Those some tripping hazards. But I think we could. I think we can agree that when they say woke, it's another term used for Black in the alphabet community, right? Because they say it with such vitriol and such.
So it says on the internet,
man. That's all it could possibly mean. And then when they define the programs and say that's woke, all I see are programs that support equality or support the alphabet community. I haven't seen them put woke onto any other program.
So woke, the African American English synonym for the general American English word awake, has since the 1930s or earlier been used to refer to awareness of social and political issues affecting African Americans, often in the construction stay woke. Now, that's what this internet's saying. I think that's pretty accurate.
I mean, that's how Black people define it. But to the question, what do they mean by it, right? I think we know what it means. But who has had the gall to say that in a public forum?
I just heard it last week. I'm so mad at myself because they did a really great job. Because you know what? It was I think it was on CNN. An African American asked the person, defined it. And I swear I thought it was Scott Jennings that defined it. And I think someone sent him the answer on the phone because he was looking at his phone. God, I'm trying to find this so bad. Because I think he Oh gosh, I thought he did
A pretty good job at defining it. Why are
yeah,
you looking that
but
up?
he needed help though. He needed help.
Yeah,
So
and what? But why are you
oh,
looking
here it
that up?
is. Here it is.
Go
On
ahead.
CNN's Abby Phillip and Black panelists clash with Scott Jennings over anti-woke push sounds like anti-black. Oh boy, Phillip. Okay, y'all
Why are
go
you
ahead.
looking at?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because I see what you're looking at. But the FCC, Brendan Carr, currently the senior Republican of the Federal Communications Commissions and Trump's pick to lead it, outlined his plan to challenge big tech in the FCC chapter of Project 2025, which is odd to me because I wondered how he's going to, or who he's going to actually push against, since Elon is such a big part or influence with Trump at this point. So to me, directly, that's saying that, you know, they're definitely going to hit Mark Zuckerberg. They're definitely coming after YouTube. They're coming after Facebook, Google, any platform that they don't have direct control over. Hell, Elon Musk just tried to buy CNN, didn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at what Scott Jennings said here. He says, quote, I mean, I tend to think about hyper liberal people who have a fundamental disregard for, you know, the underpinnings about founding of our country, and who wants to fundamentally change our society in ways that are not in line with the vast majority of American citizens. That's what I think about. Ooh, that's not a good answer. That's not a good answer.
I was about to say that's not the definition. That's not what that's.
No, I know what he's saying,
Yeah.
but as I tell some people who come from Europe, if you say that statement to a certain percentage of African Americans, they're gonna call you straight up racist. And
Okay.
so I'm parsing my words, because
Yeah.
I'm not saying all and I'm not saying every, because we don't want to be stereotyped. So I'm not going to stereotype those who come from Europe as, you know, as their ancestry, but a certain percentage of them, that they say something like that from Scott Jennings. And I don't think Scott Jennings is a racist. I really don't. But for him to have the courage to go on CNN, even though he's being paid as the Republican contributor, and take that heat from a whole board of liberal Democrats coming at you 100 miles an hour, you're going to have some good days, you're going to have some bad days.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that courage. He was just trying to get paid. That's just wanting to get paid. That's all he's doing. But they still haven't been able to actually define woke. And I think it's hilarious because listening to them define it shows exactly one of the things that's happening, which is this whole unsettling movement of white reparations being pushed. Right. And one of the things that's happening to the Department of Education is McMahon, who's going to be in charge of it, is being posited and directed to push education or schooling back down to the states, right? And we talked about this at the back end of last week's podcast, and the dangers involved in that we talked about on a previous podcast we had when we were reading Project 2025. And so reparations can't be garnered or sought after or looked for in any true sense when it comes to us. But this whole notion of the white man's oppression is what's beginning to be pushed. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but it's beginning to become a mainstay in the rhetoric, clothed. It's not said like that directly. It's a clothed rhetoric that's being pushed, that's begun happening. And it started happening when they started looking at CRT, right? Because they didn't want CRT taught at a younger school age because it was making the white kids, the white classmates, feel uncomfortable and bad about themselves. But they didn't make slavery in there.
So here's my thing about that. I want black people to feel good about being black.
Yeah.
I want white people to feel good about being white.
Yep.
I want everybody to feel good about their ethnicity.
That's what happens.
Because I'm not a hypocrite.
Yep.
Now, when you start teaching young European American children about the horrors of slavery, you can teach that without basically telling them that you should feel bad and that, you know, your people are no good. That doesn't work. But there's a fine line in teaching history, and there's also a fine line in still telling people that you can still feel good about yourself regardless of the things of the past. Now, have some African Americans gone too far to the left? Absolutely, they have.
Yeah.
Particularly with that, you know, defund the police, get that crap out of here. And that's part of, and because when you go so far to the left, then you produce a Donald Trump. And so when black folks were talking about, oh, we need our slave reparations, no one ever heard me say that. Because I said, if you talk about getting slave reparations, and even though you may be correct in your mindset, because other people were paid for the things they've been through, if you're African American, and if the U.S. government was to ever give out African Americans slave reparations, kiss your job opportunities goodbye. Because white people across America, whether they're prejudiced or not, they'll never hire you again. They'll never hire you.
We'll come back to that because I'd like to explore that topic later on another.
But you're right about McMahon.
Yeah, and I think again, this is somebody who's out of wrestling culture. She's been body slammed a few times or two, but let me say this about the general cast of the cabinet: they are not qualified to be there. The general cast, they're not qualified, right? Even from the standpoint of taking a Fox News contributor who used to be in the National Guard, right? Even when I talk about Tulsi Gabbard, it's dangerous at this point. She is a lieutenant colonel in the Army, but some of the things that and that part, right? So that the McMahon, Department of Education, come on, man. RFK, these guys aren't qualified for these departments. Now, to Deuce's point, he is putting people in the places that they hated. And so they'll do a good job of gutting it out because they have no vested interest in seeing those departments do well for the people.
I would simply say that doesn't matter. How many people have gotten jobs in this country who weren't qualified? Too many. Okay, so the idea that you can only put in people who are qualified, Pete Buttigieg was put in charge of the Department of Transportation. Look how that went. So when you win the presidency of America, for example, Mr. Glass, if you won the presidency of America and they said, well, who's going to be the chaplain in charge of the White House? I know who I'm going to see in there. I know who I'm going to see in there. Okay, if they said, well, who's going to be the department of this or that? And next thing you know, I see, hold on, a Jadawan Glass in there smiling, saying, oh yes, I'll handle that. So no. So if you win the election, you put your people in, whether they're qualified or not. Because some people said that Donald Trump wasn't qualified to run for the presidency again anyway.
First off, he wasn't. He wasn't the first time. But what I won't move off of that point, right? Yeah. And so to that point, that's the rhetoric that was used against VP Harris. Well, she's not qualified. So, and she's overqualified. She could have taken that position as a politician, and she would have done what all politicians would have done, right? But you have a celebrity who's filling these roles. That's what people continue to forget. And the honest to God's truth is it boggles my mind. I am literally dumbfounded and caught up on this because I've heard a lot of people say, well, I don't care what a celebrity does or says. I'm like, wait a minute, damn it. This motherfucker that you voted for is a celebrity. How make it make sense? You making me feel like I'm crazy because the words coming out of your mouth don't make sense. They're not logical. They're nonsensical. Well, I don't care about those celebrities in Hollywood. They're all weird. But this dude, he literally came from, well, not literally, but he walked off the set of his sitcom firing people into the White House.
The thing,
And you
that,
know
the thing that
what?
kills me about it too, man, they love to trash diversity and equity, right? Because we're putting unqualified people in places because of their skin tone, right? But my guy, we talking about Fox News hosts? Come on, man. If that's not the epitome of what they say is evil, I don't know what is. That's the definition of a hypocrite, bro. Webster
Listen,
I'm gonna go
dictionary style.
after you, Rich. I'm
People get jobs that they're not qualified for. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, this is America. If you know somebody, you may have a job that you're not qualified for, but as you progressed in that job, you became more qualified. So sometimes people don't have experience and they get jobs and they learn their jobs as they go. And listen to this.
Rich, I hate to cut you off. I want to get to this point right here. You say people who get jobs unqualified. Name me some CEOs. There are a few. I ain't talking about founders. CEOs that were picked by a board that were not qualified to lead that company.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, wait a minute.
A major company, Fortune 500 company.
Hold on a second. That's funny that you say that because that's all subjective. This whole idea about who's qualified and who's not. Listen, a lot of times African Americans have said, "Can I please get this job because I know so and so wasn't qualified." So a lot of times, if we always go by, you have to be qualified. Then there's a possibility that some people will never be given a chance. They said that Barack Obama was unqualified to be the president. He did just fine to me. He didn't wreck the country. So this idea of who's qualified and not, because here's the thing: if the Democrats had won instead of putting people in positions or kept the same positions, the Republicans would be saying the same thing. Oh, so-and-so is not qualified. And this is where I'm saying.
Absolutely. No, I'm agreeing with you. They absolutely would be saying that. Go ahead. Keep finishing.
Yeah. So my thing is, since I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, I can be very neutral and unbiased and go straight down the line because neither party controls me. And here's the great thing about this country. In this country, you can be a movie star. Ronald Reagan was a movie star. He became president.
Yes, he was.
So,
and he was horrible.
You can. They tell you in this country you can be anybody you want to be. I guess Donald Trump somewhat solidifies that statement, and I say somewhat.
Well, I don't know if I can agree with you on that last point, but I'll circle back around to that. But Deuce brought up DEI. I need to make this statement known and say it, and hopefully you all put some research into this also. Walmart is getting rid of its DEI program. I just want to throw that out there. Boeing has gotten rid of getting ready to get rid of their DEI program. Not just that, Boeing has promised the American people that it is going to lay off 10% of its workforce, which is 17,000 people. Do you know where they're laying off? And right now, and these folks have already been notified, and their last day of work is in January, right? 700 people in Missouri, around the St. Louis area, Berkeley, St. Charles, and I can't remember the other place, right? These three demographics. Guess which demographic has the lowest amount of layoffs? If you're familiar with the area. I know you might not be too familiar with that area, Deuce, but go ahead.
Brother Glass, I'm gonna pick the white area for 400 kids.
St. Charles. St. Charles they have 68 layoffs of the 700. Berkeley has 355 of those layoffs. Washington, Oregon, South Carolina, and more layoffs are coming for Missouri. And I'm saying that just so that we become aware that as this DEI, the Inclusion Act begins to dissolve, so are our jobs. And everybody was saying that the immigrants were taking black jobs. There's no such thing as a black job until you begin to erase DEI.
And just to give you a bigger list of the heavy hitters, Walmart,
Yeah.
Ford, Lowe's, Boeing, Toyota, Harley Davidson, John Deere, and Tractor Supply are just a few companies that are eliminating the DEI program because Trump himself said he doesn't like that woke BS in his house, right?
Yeah.
And they put woke, right? DEI is under that whole woke umbrella. And to your point, man, I don't think people really understand the fallout of this.
Yeah.
I do. And you know what? I tell you what. I wish they had never started DEI. Diversion, equity, and inclusion. I wish they had never started that.
Please elaborate. I don't know why. Why you call that way?
I know why you. I know with this.
Some people wish that Section 8 had never started. So if we go back in the 60s, the Panthers was against government welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Republican Party became, quote, the Republican Party we know of today, before they could say something, there were certain African Americans called the Black Panthers who said, we don't want your government welfare because what it will do, it'll create a system where we'll depend upon the government for our survival. And the Black Panthers said, we don't want to depend upon you for our survival because look how you brought us over here. But that was one train of thought. And a lot of those Black Panthers lost their lives. Now, when they were doing all the Black Lives Matter marches, I said, okay. And they were talking about defunding the police. And they were talking to address racism is one thing. To make white people feel bad about their whiteness and about coming from Europe, that's something different. And there's a fine line. And what Donald Trump and in my opinion, what Donald Trump and a certain percentage of Americans are feeling that, hey, these African Americans are making us feel bad about who we are. Now, we've already been told that we can't make them feel bad about them being Black, and we can't call them the N-word openly anymore. That's not acceptable. But now they've doubled down and telling us we should be ashamed of who we are about building this country, and we should pay them. And so some white people, a percentage would say, I didn't profit off the slavery plantation, even though most likely they profited off the fact they were white. But most or a percentage of white America will never, ever acknowledge that they've been able to really prosper in this great country because of their skin color. They won't acknowledge it in the past, they won't acknowledge it today, and they won't acknowledge it tomorrow.
So I get what you're saying on that. I do think that the extremists on CRT went too far, but let's not forget that the state of Texas tried to reclassify slavery as an agricultural exchange program with Africa, right? And they stripped it from the textbooks with the schools and put that in there, right? So that was even before CRT existed, but that's before CRT really got the spotlight on it like it has right now. So I think the core of CRT is to remind people about the true source, the true foundation of America. And Rich, but to your point, there are extremists in CRT that try to make people nowadays feel bad about what they did, when really the core and the essence of it is to remind people about the beginning, when America was an embryo, who birthed it. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're trying to remind people of. Because of these other programs, Texas, Florida, which always seems to lead the extreme right movement, right? DeSantos and Wheelchair Bandit over there in Texas, they in cahoots, man. They're trying to remove that from history. And if I want to play devil's advocate, I can see how they feel attacked when we removed a lot of their heroes, right? When we removed a lot of their Civil War Confederate soldiers from like Monument Monroe up here in Richmond, from changing the base names, which I already heard Donna wants to change them back to the original names, right? I can see how they feel hurt and, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Okay, your feelings were hurt, but let's think about the effects of it. But I think the conversation needs to focus on the effects and not placing blame on people who lived eons ago, if that makes sense. The effects and how can we not repeat that?
You know what?
Go ahead, Rich. Go
You
ahead.
know what? You're right, Deuce. But I want to go back to Texas for a second. Texas was really the first state to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday because it happened in Texas. So that's very ironic. So the racism in Texas, it's they're different. I can't explain it, but they're different. Now, but I'm going to go to that next
You were right
point.
about that. They view it as different.
It's
there,
different. So, but I want to go to that point about the Confederate symbols. I'll try to be quick on this. When they were talking about removing those Confederate symbols, and a lot of people in the South was hurt by that. Here's my question I would say to European Americans. When Hitler did all that evilness,
That part.
okay, and when Germans said anything that had to do anything with the Nazi party, we getting that shit, and I'm saying shit, up out of here, except for the concentration camps, because we don't want no one to say that this did not happen.
Yeah.
They got all that Nazi crap out of Germany. Period. But yet, when it comes to African Americans, we want to remove them horrors of the Confederacy and of the slavery, remove all those symbols. We're told we're wrong. So I said I'm against slave reparations, but on the removal of the Confederate symbols, I gave you a different answer, because I'm going to Germany and saying you removed all those Nazi symbols, and you said never again in this country. Well, and you said because the Jews were fighting anti-Semitism. So when Black folks are fighting racism in America, are we equal to the Jews in Germany when they were fighting for their survival? Are we their equal?
That's a perfect question. But to go back to DEI and to kind of agree with what you were saying about it, I wish, and what Wanda said also, as well as what Maya said, I wish there was not a need for it in the first place. And the reason why I wish that they did not create it in the manner that they did is because it gave them a prop to point at as a scapegoat and a talking point. It gave them that ability and the wherewithal to actually have a tangible thing to say, hey, look at this. This is what they're doing to us. We got to have our reparations because now we're being discriminated against. All right. And to Maya's point, DEI was nothing more than a corporate, well, let me be careful with no, I'll say it the way I was about to say it. DEI became a corporate trend to maintain our dollars. That's what it became, right? So the creation of DEI, it came and bit us because we didn't do it in a more prudent manner, and we should have. We should have. We should have painted it with a bit of a broader stroke and used different language when it came to it, and not given them the wherewithal to point at us and scapegoat us in this actual capacity, because that's what affirmative action. You know, they removed affirmative action, not understanding that affirmative action was used by white women more than anybody else, not by us. And the people who felt that directly were our Asian brothers and sisters. No sooner it happened, it became a thing.
Well,
You
here's my big thing about this. If we treat everyone with equal love and respect, we don't need DEI. Okay? Here's the problem. When you bring over a group of people, take away their last names, take their names from them, period. Take away their language and their culture. And then you tell them in 1865, you'll be just fine. Now, if you don't want to go back to Liberia, you don't want to go down to Belize, you'll be okay. And so then you're saying you have to catch up. And then with all the civil rights acts in the 60s, you say, okay, that's long enough. You've had enough time to catch up. We don't need no type of special program to help you. So you don't need no equity. We don't have to give you equity, something special just for you for being African American, to get you caught up so we can treat you as being equal to us. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Sorry, Wanda. So,
Yeah.
Maya and I looked up Liberia not too long ago. I just want to say that it looks as if it is a state of money laundering for multiple different countries. Just throwing that out there. Look it up and see if you can agree with me or disagree. It's kind of screwed up how they got things going over there. But we've got to push through because we got to read more names from the cabinet list because we want to get to Stephen Miller, right? So John Ratcliffe is being pushed for CIA director, and actually we'll just get to him right now. Stephen Miller, all right, Stephen Miller, a longtime member of Trump's inner circle and founder of the MAGA-aligned America First Legal, which is a ruse in and of itself. Is slated to take on an expanded role in Trump's White House return. While he is not listed as a contributor to the Project 2025, America First Legal was listed as one of the contributors, but they removed him. They got removed from the list. Just wanted to throw that out there. It was a smart move on Miller's part, but Stephen Miller's a piece of shit. I said it, and I'll say it with my whole chest. I wish he was right here in front of me so I could say it to his face. And he could feel the frequency that I'm saying it in. He's a piece of shit. He's not for American citizens as a whole. He is horribly racist. He is a disgusting human being in flesh in totality. That's my opinion on him. That's just me personally.
I would say Stephen Miller is no different than Gavin Newsom.
You got to break that down.
When you have power, you have influence, and maybe your ancestors come from Europe, you can say what you want to say and do what you want to do. This is America. You came to this country and you stole it and you fought for it and you enslaved a certain percentage of Africans. And you did what you had to do to survive. And you don't want to do it paying no high amount of taxes. Because if you wanted to pay taxes, you would have stayed back under the rule of King George III, I believe, back in England. So you came to America with a whole new outlook, but you had to enslave a few people because, well, you know, you wasn't going to do all that manual work and the Native Americans wasn't going to do it. And you hadn't thought about going to the Southwest yet. So Stephen Miller is just a classic example of a person with a mindset that we're not going to lose our country. We're not going to let African Americans tell us that we have to pay them slave reparations. We're not going to let them demand jobs from us. We're not going to let them demand anything from us. If anything, they should be lucky that we brought them over here, that we brought their families over here. I'm just saying liberally. I don't know how Mr. Miller thinks, but he's not going to allow Black people to do certain things. He's not going to allow transgender to use the same bathroom. They're going to put a stop to all of this. But here's the funny thing about this. You push too far to the left, you get too far to the right. You push too far to the right, you come back to the middle. Here's the one thing we do know. Shamiqua, and Janae, they ain't having one kid. They ain't having two. They're going to have 6 to 7. So you can lock up 2 or 3 Black men and throw them in jail for charges they didn't do. It doesn't matter. We're not going anywhere no time soon. And the last time I checked, those coming across the border, until you shut that border down, they'll keep coming across and having kids in America. So what I'm trying to say here, to wrap this up, Mr. Stephen Miller, the idea that, quote, European Americans will be the majority of this country, in about 20 or 30 years, it's over. Now, you'll still be able to control the country, like South Africa, but you won't be the majority, no matter how hard you try. I'm done.
Yeah. Deuce, what you got?
I don't agree with Richard's comparison of Stephen Miller to Gavin Newsom, right? Gavin Newsom has tripped up, fell down, and slid down the hill a couple of times, man. But to my knowledge, I think to the public's knowledge, I don't think he's come out as openly racist or as far as sharing white nationalist links to his friends, as Stephen Miller has done.
Hold on, Deuce. Let me interrupt. I'm fighting to be reinstated to my union as president because Gavin Newsom ran me out of my job. So I don't want to hear that shit about Gavin Newsom. I know him personally. But continue, please.
What I'm saying is, I don't think Gavin Newsom was part author of Project 2025 and ways to spread white nationalism across America, like Stephen Miller is, right? Stephen Miller, I like what Glass said about him, but this dude is smart, man. That's the thing.
Yeah.
This dude is smart and dangerous. He's not a goof like Gates. Gates isn't a dangerous guy. Gates is a freaking simpleton, right? Gates can be defeated by a 6-year-old, right, in a debate. Stephen Miller, dangerous, intellectual, and using his research and his mind to further his agenda, which is anything that's porcelain, right?
And let me tell you how dangerous Gavin Newsom is. You find out that the new president of Local 1000 will not support you, will not give you any money. So you have an illegal meeting to run him out of office. Yet you try to act like you're for African Americans and slave reparations. But yet when Joe Biden, President Biden, made Juneteenth a federal holiday, you refuse to make this an additional state paid holiday in the state of California. You're a liar, Gavin Newsom. You're no different than Stephen Miller. At least Stephen Miller tells me up front, I may have to call you the N-word, Mr. Brown, but don't take it too personal. Okay, Mr. Miller. But Mr. Gavin Newsom will call me the N-word while he's sipping his wine and his French Laundry while he has all the other businesses shut down in the state of California, but he's partying with his friends. But see, I know a whole lot more about Mr. Gavin Newsom, but I'm not going to say it online because I don't want him to say I defamed his character. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. But he's no different than Stephen Miller. So when you're coming from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party as the honorable, let me stop. So, the both political parties will play you. And the last time I checked, African Americans, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. We have to take care of each other and support each other.
And
period.
And with that, we will jump into final thoughts because I got to pack. I got to get packed. And the music.
Nice to be in love. Nice to be in love.
Oh, I'm up first tonight. I am up first tonight. So my final thoughts is there are a lot of Americans that are having buyer's remorse at this point. And I believe that that trend is going to continue with the dismantling of democracy as we know it. Given the cabinet picks that Trump has nominated at this point, we've got to figure out how to actually be okay at the end of the day. To Rich's point about the economy, what he was just saying, banding together economically is more powerful than your votes. Banding together economically is what gives you power before your vote. And if we could do that simple thing, again, I had been telling people years before before 2024 came, the African American community was projected to earn, or to spend rather, $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion. If we can turn a quarter of that back into the community, we've given ourselves power. Now, the challenge comes into, it ain't even so much getting people smart enough to do it. It's getting people willing to see that the value is not in a pair of Jordans, but the value is in actually opening a small shop. Take a coffee shop, and I use this as an example in one of my TikToks. Instead of jumping off the Palestinian bandwagon and going back to Starbucks, how about somebody in that community open up a coffee shop and you all spend your money there? And if you don't have enough money to open up a coffee shop, how about this? How about you all donate to a coffee fund so you all can begin to rotate coffee at a house in the morning and begin to plan and strategize in the mornings before you go to work. Empower yourselves, but we won't do that. We won't do that. We're too tied into consumerism. We're too tied into somebody else defining who we are before we define ourselves and making people act accordingly. That's an issue. Hopefully, we figure out that our economics is what gives us power and a platform in this country. And we begin to define ourselves through our power, through our voice, and through our actions, and we make people act accordingly. Those are my final thoughts. Next up, who we got? Who want to go? Deuce, you up.
Oh man, spotlight's on me. Glass, I'm gonna echo the point you made, man. What I think a lot of people don't know is tying your points about economic equality, economic strength, right? That's a scary term. When you think about it, go back in history, man. When they killed Martin Luther King, it wasn't because King lived all that time, did all of this non-violence approach to civil rights. That was cool. They drafted civil rights bills, man. That ink was hot. You want that? We give it to you. However, after he came back from Jamaica and met with Garvey and went up to Memphis to talk about economic equality, bruh, that's when King became public enemy number one, and they had to take him out. Because that's the scary thing, man. Economics. What changed Birmingham, Alabama? I'm sorry, Montgomery, Alabama was the bus boycott. Hitting them in the pockets, right? And to your point, man, who's going to care about Black America? We continue to spend what we spend on these companies that support who they support. They put people they want in the Congress to support their agenda because they know we're going to be blind and keep spending that money like we at Magic City, right? Ooh. So until that thought changes, until we collectively, at least enough of us come together and focus our money towards our political agenda, ain't nothing gonna change, bro. Ain't nothing gonna change. So that's my thought, man. We got to come together, get that dollar streamline, man, and make people listen. And make people listen. I promise you to do.
All right. Love it. Love it. Rich, your final thoughts, bro.
Well, y'all, hard to come behind all that. Black empowerment, get your money right, legally, long term.
Legally, yes.
Don't demonize other African Americans. So I'm gonna keep mine kind of different. First of all, I want to say to everyone who voted in this election, thank you for voting. Don't ever give up on voting in this country. Sometimes you win when you vote, sometimes you lose when you vote. You have to accept the consequences and keep pushing. Happy holidays if you celebrate these American holidays. Because I know some people don't celebrate them. I hope that everyone's able to see their families, though, during this time period. And finally, let me say this. Somehow, some way, we as Americans, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our sexual orientation, where we come from, somehow we have to learn to talk to each other without demonizing each other. Somehow, some way. I would say pray to God, but for some people you don't believe in God, pray to your creator. If you believe in a positive mindset, if you believe in the golden rule, I'll take it each and every time. But somehow we have to have difficult conversations within the community and outside the community. And just because people are asking for respect and love doesn't mean that they're trying to demonize you. No, that doesn't mean that. And sometimes I feel that the two political parties, try to play us against each other. And we've been talking about coming together since the time our people came over to this country and working together. And every time when Dr. King did it in a peaceful manner, he had to go when he started talking about the economics. When Malcolm X was talking about any means necessary, he had to go. Medgar Evers, he had to go. And the endless number of Black men who had to die unjustly because they were fighting the good fight. So this country knows about bloodshed. And because we started in a horrendous fashion, unfortunately, long-term, somewhere down the road, we'll end the same way. Because that's your foundation. All right. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate that. Echoing the sentiments that Richard said. First off, I 100% agree. The over demonization of other people because of ideas has gotten way out of hand. And I'm guilty of it sometimes also, right? So I'm not just saying this and preaching this out to other people. I'm mentioning it to myself to reel myself back in. You know, sometimes there's a necessary movement of circumscribing your desires and keeping your passions within due bonds towards all mankind. And remembering that, and not just remembering that, but acting upon those sentiments is what has to happen. The over demonization of other people, we've got to turn that temperature down by a lot. I agree with you 100%. And also to end it all, like I always say, you all could have been anywhere else in the world, but I thank you on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube, on all the other platforms that are listening to our voices and hopefully being empowered and hearing and listening to what we're saying, except for Stephen Miller, fuck him. But listening to I just I'm gonna demonize his ass. But you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you decided to hang out with us tonight, and I greatly appreciate it. Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, anything that you celebrate that's coming up. Happy all of that to you. And I hope you experience the best of humanity that we have to offer during this time of holidays. If by chance you are by yourself and you feel like you're in another state and you have the thought of taking your own life, please, 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 please reconsider, reach out, call somebody, ask for help. It is okay. We are here to lend that assistance if you need it. So thank you, family. And we will see y'all next week. So
What day?
go ahead. I'll send you that later because I got a lot on the calendar and we're going to have to figure it out. I know I shifted the Friday night podcast. We shifted the Friday night podcast from Fridays to Thursdays. This Wednesday seems to continue to work for me for the political aspect of everything. Hopefully it's working for you, Deuce.
Yeah. Just give me and Rich the number to your secretary so we can coordinate with you. That's all I'm asking, Mr. I got a lot on my calendar. It's looking heavy.
I do. I'll give you a call and fill you in on a lot of stuff that's been going on. Rich, you, but when I'm on the road, I'll give you a call tomorrow, bro, and let you know everything that's happened within the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So it's just been a lot. It's been a lot. But thank y'all for hanging out with us, family. God bless. And as always, good night.
Good night.